Let's move to the next chapter, everyone. E-commerce transaction. Everyone, I believe this time they should go ahead and ask you a 3 to 4 mark question out of this. See, Baba, either TDS or TCS. One question, though, definitely they should go ahead and ask you. I'll classify this as a B graded chapter from exam point of view. Everyone over here now. TCS का chapter में actually e-commerce का transaction which is there is nothing other than, you remember section number 9.5 was there in your charge of GST chapter. Section number 9.5 and TCS they clubbed it and they named the chapter as what, everyone? E-commerce transaction. This chapter is nothing. What is this chapter, everyone? This chapter is TCS combined with section number 9.5. If you have learned section number 9.5 and if you have learned TCS, that is all in the chapter. Everyone over here, let's go ahead and quickly revise. Sir, what do you mean by e-commerce? E-commerce, Baba, this is just for a reading purpose at home. These 3 lines are just reading purpose, nothing very important. Now, listen, section number 9.5. What does section number 9.5 go ahead and say? What does section number 9.5 go ahead and say, everyone? Whenever suppliers are taking is difficult, recipients are taking is difficult, what government goes ahead and does, everyone? Government goes ahead and catches the neck of the center wala person who is known as the e-commerce operator. Everyone over here now. Government went ahead and told in section number 9.5 that notified category of services, intrastate supply of which the tax will be payable by whom, everyone? E-commerce operator, and all the provisions shall apply to whom? To the e-commerce operator as if he is the supplier. Everyone over here, what are the 4 services which are notified? Always remember, transportation services, housekeeping services, accommodation services, and restaurant ka service. These are the 4 services which are notified. Everyone over here now, listen. I'll quickly go ahead and tell you about all the services. Number 1 service is transportation of passenger by people, transportation of passengers by road. Okay, whether it's done through radio taxi, maxi cab, motorcycle, or any other motor vehicle. See here, everyone, transportation of passenger by what, everyone? Radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, or any other motor vehicle. So for an example, there is one person who has attached his car to Ola. You went to Ola. Ola went ahead and directed the transaction to him. He went ahead and came and gave you the supply. Always remember, always the e-commerce operator will be liable. E-commerce operator will collect the GST and e-commerce will pay the GST to the government. First transaction is done. That, sir, in case of transportation of passenger, always the e-commerce operator will collect the GST and e-commerce operator will pay the GST to the government. Now, the second transaction over here is transportation of passenger. The notified supply is transportation of passenger by omnibus, except where the person supplying through e-commerce operator is a company. Chalo, for an example, redbus.com is there. You went to Redbus. Redbus directed it to a supplier. Supplier went ahead and gave you the service. In this case, always remember, if this supplier is a company, then who will pay the GST, everyone? Supplier will pay. Supplier will be liable. Okay, everyone? Section number 9.5 will not be applicable. But if supplier is not a company, then who will be liable, everyone? E-commerce operator will be liable under section number 9.5. It means the e-commerce operator will collect the GST and pay the GST to the government. Second was what? Transportation of passenger by omnibus. By omnibus, except when, everyone? The supplier is a company. Because company ka case mein, company will collect the GST and pay, supplier will not pay the GST. The next one is housekeeping services such as plumbing, carpenting, etc. Everyone over here. Supposingly, you are over here, you went to Urban Clap. Urban Clap directed it to a supplier. Supplier came and gave you the service. He is a plumber. Remember one thing. If the supplier over here is a person liable for registration under section number 21, then, Baba, supplier only will be liable. Supplier only will be liable to pay the GST. But if supplier is not liable for registration under section number 21, then, Baba, e-commerce operator will be liable under section number 9.5. E-commerce operator will be liable under section number 9(5). Remember this point, everyone. Can we go ahead, everyone? Chalo. Now the next one. People, the next one over here is the fourth one, accommodation services. Accommodation service, whether it is given in hotels, in guest house, club, campsite, meant for residential or lodging purpose. For an example, you went to Oyo. Oyo directed it to one hotel. You went to the hotel and you stayed. Now, hotel wala, when he went ahead and provided the service to you, he is the supplier, you are the recipient. But always remember, in this hotel wala case also, the same concept you have to apply over here also. What is the concept, everyone? Accommodation service and housekeeping service may the same concept is applicable. What is the same concept? If the person is liable, if supplier is a big person, he is already liable for registration, he will only collect and pay. But if the supplier is not liable, then who will pay? E-commerce operator will pay. The next one, everyone, see I've written here, note, in housekeeping and accommodation service, e-commerce shall not be liable if the supplier is liable under section number 21. The next one over here is restaurant services. People, restaurant service. Nowadays, you go to Swiggy, Zomato, etc. Yes or no, everyone? Government went in and saw now Swiggy, Zomato, etc. has become $billion industry. Government is telling if we don't collect GST, we'll lose out huge revenue. But all the suppliers are small suppliers. Small restaurants are there. What to do? So government went ahead and caught the neck of e-commerce operator over here and told, see, whenever somebody will place the order with you, the order will go to the supplier. The supplier will supply the food. But you should always collect the GST and pay the GST to the government. Who will pay the GST, everyone? E-commerce operator will collect the GST and pay the GST to the government. Whether supplier is registered or unregistered, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Always the e-commerce operator will collect the GST and pay the GST under section number 9(5). Is my point clear to all? Everyone, I want to repeat with you guys. Tell me one thing. In case of transportation of passenger by radio taxi, maxi cab, etc., who will pay? Always e-commerce. Secondly, if transportation through bus is there, then if it is a company, company will pay. Not a company, e-commerce. Sir, housekeeping service. Supplier liable, supplier will pay. Supplier not liable, e-commerce will pay. Accommodation service. Supplier liable, supplier will pay. Supplier not liable, e-commerce will pay. Restaurant services, always the e-commerce operator will pay. But there is an exception over here. Sir, what is the exception? Everyone here. See, restaurant services except restaurant or eating joint located in specified premise. If you are a restaurant or eating joint in a specified premise, then you will only collect and pay. E-commerce will not pay. Sir, what is a specified premise? Specified premise, supposingly, this is Taj Hotel. Everyone, this is Taj Hotel. Taj Hotel ka room rent per day is more than 7,500. So this Taj Hotel will be known as what, everyone? Specified premise. Now, if your restaurant is inside the Taj ka premise, supposingly one person went to e-commerce, Zomato placed the order to you, and the order went from your restaurant. In this case, remember, e-commerce will not be liable under section number 9(5) because you are located in a specified premise. You will only collect the GST and you will pay the GST to the government. Everyone over here, specified premise means premises providing what? Hotel accommodation service having declared tariff more than 7,500 per unit per day. More than 7,500. It means any room ka rent, if it is more than 7,500 in a premise, that premise becomes specified premise, and from there, if the food is provided, e-commerce operator will not be liable. Who will be liable, everyone? Specified premises ka restaurant will be liable. Is my point clear to all? I believe this time in your exam, out of these 4 services, one is what? Transportation, housekeeping, accommodation, and restaurant. Remember, Thar. Okay, everyone? Chalo. Now listen. Here, I have gone ahead and given one small circular which is there. You have to just read the circular at home. It is reading category, everyone. It is reading category. But you have to read and go. You can't leave it. You have to read it and go. Chalo. I will go ahead and now close my discussion on section number 9.5. What are the four services? THAR. I want to go ahead and ask you one question. There is one beautician. And she is supplying the services to Urban Club. Is e-commerce liable or the beautician liable? Remember one thing. The beautician will be liable because only those services which are housekeeping, accommodation, transportation, housekeeping, accommodation, and restaurant, only the e-commerce is liable. In case of beautician, etc. ka service, e-commerce is not liable. Please remember, it should be the specified services only. Not all services pay e-commerce is not liable. Can I go ahead, everyone? Chalo. Please come to the next page, everyone, now. Please come to the next page. Okay, I want to ask you one thing. If e-commerce operator has to pay under section number 9.5, if e-commerce operator has to pay, e-commerce operator has to take what? Compulsory registration. This is in your registration ka chapter, section number 24, that e-commerce operator has to take compulsory registration. Now, the next one over here is e-commerce transaction mein what is this? This is TCS. TCS. It should not be TDS. TDS is already done. This is what, everyone? TCS. Now, everyone over here. Where does the concept of TCS come? Chalo, TCS ka concept is whenever e-commerce operator ke through supplies are done. People, listen to me very carefully. What government saw that suppliers are sitting at home and doing business and not paying their GST correctly. So government wanted to catch the supplier, and hence government went ahead and told whenever you are supplying through an e-commerce operator, e-commerce operators were told that e-commerce operator, please go ahead and deduct the TCS paid to the government so that government can track down these people. Are we clear, everyone? And hence the concept of TCS was introduced. Section number 52 talks about what, everyone? TCS. Now, supposingly you are an online buyer. You went to Flipkart. You went in and placed your order. Flipkart went in and directed the order to whom? To one supplier. Supplier packed the goods and send it to you. Always remember one thing. This supplier will also send the invoice. Yes. In this case, when you make the payment to the Flipkart, when Flipkart is making a payment to him, Flipkart will always go ahead and deduct what, everyone? TCS. First of all, always remember one thing. Flipkart, for the purpose of deducting TCS, has to take registration as a TCS collector. It's a separate registration to be taken. PAN is mandatory. And always remember, everyone over here, no TCS if the amount is received directly by the supplier. What do you mean by this? I supplied you. For an example, I'll give one example. For an example, I'm rameshsoni.com. I went ahead and supplied. You came to my website, you purchased something, and you made the payment to me directly. I supplied, you made the payment to me directly. Will I deduct TCS for myself only? No. Whenever I supply, you made the payment to one e-commerce. When the e-commerce is making the payment to me, he will deduct TCS. Everyone over here now. So it says, sir, now e-commerce operator will deduct how much TCS? If the invoice may CGST and SGST is charged, e-commerce operator will deduct 0.5% CGST and 0.5% SGST. If in the invoice IGST is charged, e-commerce will deduct 1% IGST. People, are we clear till here? You went to e-commerce, placed your order. Order came to me, I went ahead and supplied. I gave you the bill. When you make the payment to the e-commerce, when e-commerce is making the payment to me, e-commerce will deduct TCS. Everyone over here now. See, they will pay the TCS to the government using their e-cash ledger because TCS always has to be paid in cash. And they will file their return, which is their monthly statement actually. It is not called return, it's called monthly statement, which is GSTR 8. And you know what? Government will make the TCS available to you. Whom? To only to registered supplier, because unregistered people ka case mein TCS is only not deducted. And now the amount will be made available to whom? Registered supplier on the dashboard. After validation, the amount will be credited to your e-cash ledger. Are we all clear till here? One point which I always want you to remember, e-commerce operator has to deduct TCS, so it has to take compulsory registration. Are we clear? Secondly, the suppliers who are there, no, the suppliers were also required compulsory registration. The suppliers were also required compulsory registration, but then government went ahead and told, okay supplier, if you are small, if you are a small supplier, you are not required registration, and government went ahead and issued exemption in your registration chapter. Everyone over here now, listen. Always remember, if you are a supplier supplying through e-commerce, earlier you are required compulsory registration, but now what happened? No. In case you are a supplier of service up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh, you are not required to take registration. If you are a supplier of goods, then up to 40 lakh, 20 lakh or 10 lakh, you are exempted from registration, right? So you don't have to go ahead and take compulsory registration. Tell me one thing, if you are not registered, you will not get the credit. So e-commerce operator will also not deduct TCS. If I am registered, e-commerce operator will deduct TCS. If I am not registered, e-commerce operator also will not deduct TCS. Everyone over here now, listen to me very carefully. I want to go back to your chapter of registration now for a second. In your registration ka chapter, I had told you when I will teach you e-commerce operator, that time I will come back over here. Please come back to your registration ka chapter, everyone. People watching at home, are we clear till here? Chalo, can we go ahead? Everyone over here now, listen. First of all, you have to remember, if you are a person who has to pay GST under section number 95, e-commerce operator, you have to take compulsory. Secondly, if you are an e-commerce who has to collect what? TCS, you have to take compulsory registration. Secondly, if you are a person supplying through e-commerce, Baba, other than 95. Why other than 95? Because 95 ke liye to, if you are registered, you will pay. If you are not registered, e-commerce will pay. Leave those 4 supplies. Leave those 4 supply. Other than that, if you are supplying through whom? E-commerce, who is required to deduct what? TCS, then you have to take compulsory. But you are given an exemption if you are a supplier of service through e-commerce up to an aggregate turnover of 20 lakh or 10 lakh. But if you are a supplier of goods, exempt under section number 23(2), supplier of goods having aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year, people, preceding year or current year, if your turnover was not exceeding what? Registration limit, you are exempted from compulsory registration subject to the following condition. But supplier of service, no condition. Supplier of goods, condition is there. Number 1, such person shall not be making what? Interstate supply. Such person shall not be making supply of goods through e-commerce in more than one state or UT. You should be supplying through e-commerce only in one state. You should not be supplying through multiple states. First of all, don't do interstate supply. Secondly, you should be supplying through e-commerce only in one state, not multiple states. Then, such person shall be required to obtain what? PAN issued under the Income Tax Act. Such person, before making the supply through e-commerce, declare the PAN. You have to go online. You have to go online and you have to take one enrollment. You have to take one enrollment. You have to declare your PAN, address of the principal place of business, and state or union territory in which the person seeks to make supply. On validation, once you have gone ahead and declared this, the portal will validate everything. On validation, such person shall be granted what? Enrollment number on the common portal. One enrollment number shall be granted in a state or union territory. And remember, no supply of goods shall be made before the enrollment is granted. Tell me one thing, everyone. I am an e-commerce operator who has to pay tax under section number 95, compulsory registration. I am an e-commerce operator who has to deduct TCS, compulsory registration. You are a person supplying through e-commerce. Compulsory, not compulsory? Not compulsory. Supplying services, exempted up to 20 lakh or 10 lakh. Supplying goods, exempted up to 40 lakh, 20 lakh, 10 lakh. But subject to condition. You should not do interstate supply. Everyone with me? You should not do interstate supply. You should only supply in one state, not multiple states. You should obtain your PAN. You should go online, declare all the PAN, etc. And you will be given one enrollment number. Remember, don't make any supply before the enrollment is granted. Are we clear till here, everyone? Chalo, please come back. People, registration mein what point I told you I'll connect later. You are connected now? Please come back. Now listen. People, e-commerce also should make sure, no, everyone here, see, you should take enrollment. You should take enrollment. You should not supply through multiple states. Who should take care of that? That your enrollment number is there. You have gone ahead and not supplied through multiple states through e-commerce. Who should take care? That multiple states may e-commerce should not allow you. E-commerce should take care. So e-commerce also has been given special procedure. Government notified what? Special procedures for e-commerce operator. Notification. Special procedure to be followed by e-commerce operator with respect to supplies of goods through them by a composition taxable person. Everyone over here. So if I am a composition person and I am supplying through e-commerce, e-commerce shall not allow any interstate supply. Secondly, e-commerce shall collect TCS and pay to the government. But because composition person is a registered person, TCS will come in his e-cash ledger. E-cash ledger, so he can go ahead and use to pay his liability. Then e-commerce shall furnish the details of such supply in GSTR 8. I hope you guys already remember. E-commerce should give all the details in their GSTR 8. So if I am a supplier through e-commerce and I am a composition dealer, what should the e-commerce operator do? Number one, don't allow interstate supply. Secondly, e-commerce should collect TCS paid to the government and also report in the GSTR 8. Sir, what about normal people? Or what about unregistered people? Here, special procedure to be followed with respect to supplies of goods by them, through them by unregistered person. People, if any unregistered person is supplying through e-commerce, e-commerce should take care. E-commerce shall allow people, unregistered people means who have taken enrollment. You have enrolled, you have taken enrollment number. Are you registered, not registered? Just because you took enrollment, you are registered person. No. Can we go ahead, everyone? Do you remember just now I told you, if you are unregistered also, you can go take enrollment and supply through whom? E-commerce. E-commerce should take care. E-commerce shall allow supply of goods through it only if such person has been allotted what? Enrollment. E-commerce shall not allow interstate supply. E-commerce shall not collect TCS, because if e-commerce collect TCS, you are unregistered. You will not get the credit. E-commerce shall not collect TCS and pay to the government. It should not collect, and e-commerce shall furnish the details of such supplies in GSTR 8. Everyone over here now. Sir, what are the cases when TCS is not required? People, what are the cases when TCS is not required? Remember, no TCS in the following case. Transaction is out of scope. Transaction pay, there is no GST only, no TCS. Transaction is on which tax is payable under RCM. I did one supply. This recipient has to pay GST under RCM. In that case, e-commerce will not deduct TCS. Next, transaction is nil rated, wholly exempt, non-taxable, no TCS. Supply is unregistered. People, if I am unregistered, they will not deduct any TCS. No TCS on the services which are covered under section number 9.5. If the service is THAR, TCS provisions are not applicable. Everyone over here now, listen. In this case, one point also is there over here, one clarification. I'll tell you one thing, clarification. Clarification on TCS applicability in case of multiple e-commerce. First of all, I want to ask you some question. You tell me. I am a supplier. I am supplying through e-commerce. Okay? Okay. I did the supply. People, I did the supply. You made the payment directly. TCS, no TCS. I did the supply to you. You made the payment directly. TCS or no TCS? No TCS. Okay. You tell me one thing. If I sold the goods to one e-commerce operator sold the goods to you. E-commerce operator is my agent. I sold the goods to e-commerce. E-commerce issued the invoice in the name of the e-commerce. I issued the invoice in my name to the e-commerce operator. Principal ka name. E-commerce ko you made the payment. E-commerce made the payment to me. Tell me one thing. In this case, TCS or no TCS? No TCS. Why no TCS? Because these are two separate transactions. Remember, if e-commerce ke through you are supplying, e-commerce should not be your agent. Everyone listen. Sale is only one. I sold to the customer. Payment went to e-commerce. E-commerce is making the payment. Then TCS will come. I sold to e-commerce. E-commerce sold to you. You paid payment to e-commerce. E-commerce made the payment to me. No TCS. Simple. You will remember. Sale is one. Sale is one only. I sold the goods to you. You made the payment to e-commerce. E-commerce is making the payment to me. E-commerce will deduct TCS. Can we go ahead, everyone? Everyone over here now, listen. Chalo, I will go ahead and explain you about one clarification which is there with respect to multiple e-commerce operator. It says where multiple e-commerce operator are involved in a single transaction and where supplier side e-commerce himself is not the supplier, TCS is to be done by the supplier side e-commerce who finally releases the payment. Sir, what do you mean by this? Listen. You are a buyer. You went to an e-commerce operator. This is buyer side ka e-commerce. Okay? You placed your order. Order came to another e-commerce operator. This e-commerce operator has many buyers. This e-commerce operator has many suppliers. Supplier and buyer. Okay, everyone? So what happened? First, the order went to this e-commerce. He directed the order to this e-commerce. This e-commerce order gave the order to me. I went ahead and supplied. In this case, will this e-commerce deduct the TCS or supplier side e-commerce will deduct the TCS? They went ahead and clarified. Always remember, sir, TCS is to be done by whom? Supplier side e-commerce who will finally release the payment. So this guy, when he is making the payment to you, he will deduct TCS. Can I go ahead, everyone? The next one over here. Chalo, supposingly, you are the buyer. You are the buyer. You went online and you placed an order. You went online and you placed an order on e-commerce operator. The e-commerce operator directed the order to me. I am also an e-commerce operator. For an example, you went online and placed an order on one website. The website wala placed the order with me. I am rameshsoni.com. I am only the e-commerce operator and I am only the supplier. Can it happen or not? Supposingly you went in online and placed an order. The order came to me. I am already an e-commerce operator. Then they are going ahead and telling if supplier himself is an e-commerce operator, in that scenario you have to remember this buyer side ka e-commerce is there, no? He will only deduct your TCS. Is my point clear to all? They have gone ahead and told, see, where multiple e-commerce are involved in a single transaction and where supplier side e-commerce himself is the supplier, the TCS is to be done by the buyer side e-commerce who makes the payment to the supplier e-commerce. Everyone, what is the difference between the above one and second one? Here, the e-commerce was not the supplier. E-commerce sent the order to me. I was the supplier. So he did the TCS. In the second example, I am only the supplier. I am only the e-commerce operator who is going to dispatch. Then this person who is the buyer side ka e-commerce operator, he will deduct the TCS. Everyone over here now, listen. All the other small points which are there are all miscellaneous. You guys can read at home. Everyone listen to me very careful now. All these points which are there, no, here. All these points which I have written over here, these are just for your reading purpose. Okay? You can just read once, that's all. Everyone over here now. This chapter, from exam point of view, is B graded. Please remember, these 4 points which I have gone ahead and told you are very, very important. Please mark it, everyone. Very, very important from exam point of view. Please mark. I want you guys to read this circular and go. Don't leave the circular, just read the circular once and go. See, Baba, the things which are super easy, where there is nothing for me to put energy on, I will not be able to do something in that. If I have to read one line, it will waste time. Are you guys able to understand? We will utilize our time where I have to explain something. Done? So what we will do is, whatever is reading category, I will tell you to read. You guys can just read at home. Can I go ahead, everyone? So this is just a reading category, but a good circular. You must read and go. Okay? Next. Everyone over here now. Here, I believe you should remember that when is TCS not required? This multiple e-commerce wala point which I explained you. This special procedures are good. And you know what? The very, very important part is doing question answers from TCS. TDS and TCS, although B graded, C graded chapter, but you know what? Students who don't do 1 or 2 question also and go for the exam, they will not be able to do it in the exam because the exam ka questions are very tricky. So when you do 1 or 2 question at home, no, then you will be able to do it easily in the exam. Done, everyone? So please, 1 TCS ka question, 1 TDS ka question, at least you do and go for exam. I'll do one thing, everyone. Let me see if there is anything. Nothing. I'll go ahead and close my revision on the chapter of TCS and Baba on the e-commerce transactions.